Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson. And my guest today is a beautiful woman's advocate. Her name's Christina Meade. Her show, she has a talk show, but also her purpose and her goal really is to bring encouragement to women and girls by helping them develop into strong leaders and businesswomen. She's all about empowerment. And she has had a very interesting career leading her to this point. She's actually a nonprofit, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But welcome, Christina. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome. So I know you spent a lot of time prior to developing this nonprofit organization in the world of academia and teaching. So maybe you can take us back there and we can start there and kind of work our way to where you're at now.
Yeah, sure. So I started out teaching, I actually started out teaching high school in Dallas ISD for 3 years. Taught AP and pre-AP biology, had a great time doing that. My second year teaching, they actually said, hey, you're going to be the instructional technology specialist, which was
surprise.
Yeah, I was going to say it was fun. I think it's just because I was one of the youngest people there, so they assumed that I would know all the technology. And then moved to Houston and got a job teaching seventh grade science, which I absolutely love teaching science. It's usually a subject that kids don't like a lot, so I really that was my thing then, was just to make sure that kids didn't lose. Elementary school, they love science. They get to junior high, and all of a sudden they hate science.
Right.
That love of that subject area up. And just through the years of teaching and everything, when I was my husband, he started his videography company, and very much the introvert. And so after a couple of years of not really having a whole lot of success of getting the company up and running, I decided to go ahead and leave education. I'd actually been thinking about entering the entrepreneurial world myself. And so just joined him and helping getting that company off the road.
It's a huge leap of faith to leave the security of that consistent paycheck and the benefits. And
absolutely.
And what was the tipping point for you? What was the determining factor that really got you to commit and shift the direction?
Yeah, I mean, because it was a big shift. And 6 months prior to that, my husband had a health scare. So we'd already started his company, the videography company, had a big health scare where he was in the hospital for 5 days. And just that realization was, we need to be doing things together, finding ways to spending more time together, supporting one another, that kind of thing. We do have this understanding when we met and everything. It's like, I don't stay in a job if it's not fulfilling me anymore. Like, pay isn't the big thing; it's fulfillment and that kind of stuff. And there were certain aspects of education where that was leaving me, that sense of fulfillment and everything. And then again, seeing him struggling like that is just finding ways of spending more quality time together, and that kind of thing. And so it's like, I believe in you enough, and so let's just go and do this together and make it successful. So
that's so awesome. How many years ago was that? When was that?
So let's see here. I want to say that was in 2000. I think it's January 2011 is when he had that health scare. So by that, I had put in my letter of resignation. And that June, I was out. Yeah. No paycheck anymore or anything like that. Yeah, definitely. So
that took so much courage on your part. That's a leap of faith. It's jumping and knowing the parachute's going to open. That's pretty powerful.
There are definitely times when it didn't feel like the smartest decision. I mean, when you've got other people around you, especially like when you've got family around you going, what are you, nuts? It's crazy. You're leaving this steady job to go and do this. I started doing, because we needed to. I learned how to create websites. I learned how to do, mail campaigns, all of that kind of stuff. And so people were like, you don't know what you're doing. I'm like, figure it out. I'm an intelligent human being. I'm pretty sure.
It's so interesting because where would we be if everybody who relied on the opinions of others decided not to step into their greatness and follow their heart?
But think about how many people don't. I mean, how many people, follow that safe path or safe path. You know what I mean? It's just like because they're afraid, or so many people have said like, well, that's just crazy. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a lack of faith in themselves, one, but also so many people are swayed by the opinion of everyone else.
Well,
They're listening to their own heart and their own dreams, and they're stuffing that and pushing it aside. So I honor you for really stepping into your truth and standing by your husband and committing to that and getting that launched. And
well, thank you. I think a lot of that though with people comes from not having examples, which is why I really like that you're doing this series, is because I think part of that comes too is from just the lack of examples for people where it's someone that they identify with, and so they can see themselves as that person. Well, yeah. I like them, and if they did it, I can do it too.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I like doing with Nerdy Girl Success. I mean, having volunteers that look like the girls that I'm helping, so that way they can see themselves. It's so powerful. So
how did Nerdy Girl Success come about? How did that evolve from working in this videography business? It's such a departure from what you were doing originally, helping him launch. So was it just a seed that had been planted? And
it's a hot mess is what it is, to be honest with you, which is why I was laughing. I was like, oh, I wish I had a pretty story to tell.
There's always a story.
Right. It was just, so in the videography company, there became the need. We were doing videos for business owners, small business owners. And so there became the need to learn how to, helping them with their social media, their email marketing, all of that kind of stuff. And so I got a coach, and we actually had it to where I had a team. We built it up. I had a team. I had all these clients, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And again, like I said, my husband and I have this understanding. It was just like, if you're in a job that you hate, don't. You spend too much of your life doing a job, working in your career, that kind of thing, for you to hate it. Yeah. And so he's like, well, what do you want to do? And so just kind of, stepping back and thinking like, okay, so what are my interests? What am I passionate about? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so there were lots of little things and little seeds that were planted, that, like, again, I love office supplies. So Nerdy Girl Success actually started out like, it was Nerdy Girl Supplies, which is still around, but it was office supplies, but it was like office supplies that had a little bit of meaning to it. And really being out in the business world, leaving that education kind of bubble, really opened up my eyes to things that I thought were changed, thought weren't happening anymore with women, and noticing all of the obstacles and things like that are in the way of women. And so finding that very frustrating. And so that's where some things became, I just got more and more passionate about that and frustrated, to be honest. I mean, with things, I'm like, it's 2018 back, it's 2016 back then. I was like, this just shouldn't be the scenario anymore. And so then I kind of always had the belief that you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And so for me, I'm like, well, I want to be a part of the solution for this. And so then trying to find the way to be that solution. What can little old me here in Richmond, Texas, what can I possibly do to create a shift? So that's where just kind of the little things and births of the ideas and things for Nerdy Girl Success came about. And it was a lot of my thinking it's got to be this way, it's got to be this way, with other people saying, you really should be doing this. What about this? That kind of thing. And that's what I was talking about with you before. It's just kind of, for a long time, I was thinking I had to forge a path a certain way and wanted to do it a certain way. And it finally just been like, okay, fine, I've gotten the message.
Sometimes we have to get out of our own way.
Yes.
Sure. And it takes trial and error and experience to take us to that point where we're like, okay, I'm feeling a lot of resistance going this path. Maybe I need to shift gears and look at something a little bit differently.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you started Nerdy Girl Success, was it all about workshops in the beginning for you? I know you do a lot of workshops, and I would love to share what those entail and how that got going for you.
It started out wanting to have monthly workshops and wanting it to be, and again, the whole coming into alignment was really also taking the time to step back and to listen to what other people were saying, that kind of thing, with the message that I was getting that I didn't want to hear. Because I was like, no, I work with women and girls. And people were so confused. Nobody was coming to the workshops. I thought that workshop was for teen girls. I thought that was for women. And so again, just clarifying it, just sitting back and going like, what is it that I really want to do? What do I really want to accomplish? So what I do now, a lot of it's working with the teen girls, doing after school programs, at homeschool groups, want to have somebody coming out, that kind of thing. So going and working with the girls in areas of leadership, and self-confidence, through teaching business skills, teaching them about like how the local government works, that kind of thing. So, and then I do have some things that I do with women. I have my women's conference, which will be in March, and doing some smaller things like that. We've got the talk show that we do, which is more geared towards women, women's issues, that kind of thing. And we're starting to have, that's even morphing a little bit. It was just done like via Facebook Live, and we're having our first one this month. I'm so excited about it, where we're actually morphing the talk show to have a live audience and then event afterwards.
Awesome.
So, so
now tell me what's the name of your talk show, so people find you. Do they find you on Facebook, or is it a podcast as well? Or tell me how people can find your show.
Okay, so it's done through Facebook. We've actually created a Facebook group for it. It's called Defining Her Story. We'll put that link below. Awesome, thank you. And it's also a podcast. So what we do is we take the audio from the talk show and then turn that into the podcast. That way, in case you miss it, or I've really discovered podcasts and really like them, because that's what I've started listening to when I'm driving in the car, that kind of thing. So we went ahead and made it, just converted it into a podcast as well. So, yeah. Awesome. Well, congratulations on launching that. I look forward to tuning in. And what's the demographic you're trying to reach with your talk show, and what kinds of topics are you exploring there? Okay. So the demographics for the talk show, it really is for who's tuning in are women 20s to like 50s, 60s, are tuning in and listening. And what we're doing is we're talking about different women's issues. And the purpose of doing the talk show a lot of times is examining a lot of the unconscious biases that we have. Why do we have them? Where do they come from? A lot of times if you don't realize that you have that bias, and as soon as you do, then it's kind of like, then you can start shifting the conversations and the way that you interact with others, which is like what I call the BHAG, or the Big Hairy Audacious Goal, is for Nerdy Girl Success. I want you to say that one more time, because it's not mine. I did not coin it. I love to say that I coined it, but it's called a BHAG, so BHAG, Big Hairy Audacious Goal. Other
like
people have common goals. If your goal doesn't make you a little bit sick, it isn't big enough. So So, but we cover, so like what we're going to be doing in this month's, so it's October. So we're doing in a couple of weeks, it's called Women, Whiskey and Wine. So this is going to be our very first live audience / event.
Awesome.
And what we're doing is the talk show part of it. The broadcast is about women in the alcohol industry and just what the impact is that we've had, because a lot of people don't really realize that women really are the first brewers of like beer and things like that. Like that's, and what we're doing and how then how women got oppressed within that and started taking over and that kind of thing. I won't go into that right now, but just
Right.
so that
that's another show.
Exactly, that's another show. Those kinds of things, and it's a lot of it. What we're focusing on the next few months is just women in some unexpected places. Like next month is going to be women in the gaming industry, and just what the culture's been like for women, and how companies are changing, or at least attempting to change that culture, so that way we're bringing women in. A lot of places where, especially like within STEM, what's happening is that women are coming in, but then are leaving. It's not because women aren't interested, because girls don't have this, that kind of thing. It's that the culture is so toxic. So we cover things like that within the talk show.
I love that you're bringing awareness to that. It's such a pivotal time right now for women. I know that the divine feminine is rising, that women are really starting to stand up and speak out and advocate for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's a really perfect time for you to be launching your talk show.
Well, thank you. The talk show has actually been around. We're actually in our second year.
Oh, you're in your second year.
Yeah, we're in our second year of doing the talk show. And I have to say, like, part of the reason why I'm doing this and everything is because of the fact that this isn't the first year of the woman or whatever. There's been, even within my lifetime, back in the 80s and 90s, there was another rise of feminism and everything. Back in the 60s and 70s, it seems like it's this thing where
it goes in waves.
It goes in waves, and I'm like, and I'm done with it being a wave. I'm like, it needs to become the norm. That's really what Nerdy Girl Success is about. That BHAG is that no, like this can't be. It can't be 2018 where we're having to have another rise of feminism, a rise of women, the year of the woman. I'm like, no, it needs to be. Like there's that Sheryl Sandberg quote, like, that there will be a day where there aren't female leaders. There's just leaders.
Love that.
It isn't the first. We're not needing to acknowledge the first woman who's done this, the first woman who's done that, because it's the norm for women to be in those positions now. So I'm fighting the good fight, trying to get other people to fight the good fight of just like, no.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking that on. I acknowledge you for, pursuing such an ambitious agenda, but I think it's a necessary one. And it's women like you who are going to make a difference and create change and bring awareness to this subject, So thank you. I honor you for the work you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I know that it has not been a necessarily easy ride forging your way. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the process, from inception of Nerdy Girl to where you are now. What was that like for you?
Again, like I said before, messy. It's been a challenging one. I mean, I was in a competition, a business plan kind of competition, where you had advisors and that kind of thing, and just having a male advisor saying to me repeatedly, because this was an extensive time, of just how he didn't see the need for my company.
When was this?
Oh, this was last year. I mean, like,
I can't believe that.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm just kind of, and it's a lot. It's been a lot of that from getting from others, there's not a need for this. From others, you're doing it the wrong way, which I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of the things that they were saying were right, which is when I sat back and listened and kind of marinated on it. I was like, okay, you're right. And then there's others who where you're so radical, those kinds of things. Like, so, because that word feminism and everything like that it's a very loaded word. A lot of people then think that you're male hating and everything like that. And so it's kind of like, that's not what this is about.
I think there's a way we can actually stand in our power and just be the powerful beings that we are born to be without having to raise our voice,
right?
Raise the flag. Your presence, when you own who you are, speaks volumes.
Absolutely. And so just getting a lot of those messages being bombarded on a daily basis.
How did you overcome that? That's a lot of resistance that you're up against, and you have to keep getting up because you believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, I absolutely do. And there have been days where, I have cried and I've, talked with my husband. It's just like, maybe this just isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe I just need to go out and get a job, Maybe I just need to, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe this isn't, maybe I need to be listening to, that advisor who said that there really isn't a need for this. And what kept me going was just every day that I got up, I just couldn't think of anything else. Like this was just
passion
driving, and it's even times where, you're like, okay, God, just show me a sign. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? Is this really what my purpose is and everything? And then just, you go to bed with that. And the next day, the only thing that you can think about is like, okay, so what's the next thing on my to-do list that I need to be doing? That kind of thing. And who's the next phone call that I need to make? And so that to me was just kind of like, when you can't think of anything else to be doing, that this is my purpose then. So I've stopped asking myself, should I go out and get a job? Should I be doing something different? I'm like, if this is the only thing that you can think about, this consumes your being, then you are living your purpose.
Absolutely. Can you share with us what types of programs you're doing? You said you're doing some workshops for teens. What does that look like, and where are you going to share these workshops?
Okay. So the work that I'm doing right now, so I am actually in a Boys and Girls Club here in the Richmond area. So I'm there Tuesdays and Thursdays working with the teen girls there. Finally had to put a cap on it. I'm like, I can't take any more girls. So that's
fantastic.
I was gonna say it's a good problem to have. And it took a little while to get there too, because like last spring when I was there, it was just like, it was a disaster. I'm like every day just, but tweaking it and everything. Now we've got girls who that's where they want to be, that kind of thing. But then, like I said, I'm working on trying to get into some other public schools to see if they want to have the same kind of program. And what we're doing right now is they are it's a lot of it's activity based because they're doing this after school. They've already been in school all day.
Sure.
And so a lot of it is activity based, where we're working on those skills though that leaders have, and the girls know why they're there. Like, we are working on your leadership skills. We talked about like, what is it that you want to do in life? In order to do those things, you need to have all of those skills that are on that board that we said for leaders. And so we do a lot of activities. The one that the girls did last week, I just so proud of them. So we did, it's called Blind Shapes. So these are the kind of activities. So it's blind shapes. So they were blindfolded and they were all connected with a rope, and I would call out a shape and they have to make the rope into that shape. Well, we still have some working with communication and listening skills.
Right.
I told them that I was so proud of them. They worked for 45 minutes to try to get their shape to be a square. They weren't successful at it, so they left feeling like they had failed. But when we came back, I was like, you never once called each other a name. And the biggest thing that I told them, I said that these are things that no one can teach you. Like, no matter how frustrated you guys got, one, you were polite to one another, but most importantly, you never gave up. And that is something like nobody can teach you that.
Right.
That is a trait that you have. And I said, based on that, I know that no matter what you do, you will be successful in life, And so it's just getting girls so the activities are things where girls are recognizing these traits within themselves. And, I really do have that. Oh, I really can do that. And
I
then
love that.
it's teaching them then just skills and bringing in women, like I said, that look like them, teaching them leadership skills, teaching them about how their city and state government works. Teens, I've noticed today, and we even saw this last year with the Parkland shootings. Teens are this generation of teens are very motivated to want to make changes. And wanting to make those changes within their communities. So teaching them then how to do that. You want this change to happen. Here's how the system works. So that way you can do that. So teaching, and again, if anything, for me, any change, big change that you want to see, you have to start locally. And so teaching them how their city government works, how does state government work, and getting them involved. How do you start an organization that will help you create the change that you want to see? So, and then introducing them to women that are doing those things. So again, like I said, they see someone.
Yeah, having the role model out front.
Yes.
So they see it's possible. And this is, there are people doing this, is full, I'd imagine.
No, exactly. I mean, a few years, well, actually not even a few years ago. It would be about 10 years ago when my husband and I first got married, that I actually got an opportunity to have that light bulb moment of that impact of seeing someone who looks like you. So I'm in an interracial marriage, and I remember sitting in the living room watching TV, and a commercial came on, and I was like, oh my God, Mike, get in here, get in here, get in here. Like, we're on TV. And it was, like for me, it was realizing like it didn't really, and I guess from the perspective of being a white woman, white people are on TV almost all the time. That's what all the shows, all the commercials. And so that was that light bulb moment for me of like, well, that's what it feels like when you finally see someone who looks like you doing something. And I was just kind of like, so that for me, that has stuck with me. And it's like, I have to make sure that my volunteers, it's a diverse group of women who are coming there, not just so that way an African-American girl sees a woman who looks like her at the front of the room, who is a business owner, but also for the white girl who's sitting in the room to see an African-American woman who is a business owner, like to realize that this is what the world looks like and should look like. So I think it's just really important. And it's those little things where they wouldn't be able to verbalize that necessarily. It's all just kind of unconsciously just kind of like, oh, all right, I get it, So that's why I just try to make sure that we're doing things like that.
We had a conversation not too long ago, and you were telling me about this other workshop you did where they developed a marketing and then a business plan, and then they executed. Maybe I just thought that was so cool. Maybe you could just real quick.
Sure, that's the Summer Business Camp for Girls. So we do that every summer. We're actually going to be expanding that this coming summer. But what it is it's a week-long camp. We go from concept to actually running the business for a day. Each day, they are learning a different aspect of being a business owner, and they're actually learning it from a woman who that's her expertise. She owns a business in that, and they're immediately applying it to their business. The last day, they run their store, and 100% of their revenue goes towards a charity that they selected at the beginning of the week. And so I give them 3 different options, and they pick the one. As a group, they pick the one that they want to do. And so this summer was our second year to do that. And then next year we'll be expanding it. So that camp's for 8th and 9th grade girls. We're going to expand it next year to where we've got a little bit older high school girls who are seriously considering opening a business, want to see what that's like. And so they will be paired with some advisors and working on how to do the market research, how to create a business model that could work, and eventually developing that business plan. So they've got some ideas and they've gotten feedback from other people on that kind of thing, where it'll eventually evolve into having a pitch contest where girls will be pitching to a group of committed investors, and each one of the investors on the panel will commit to selecting one of the businesses and investing in getting that business launched here in the Houston area.
I love it. It's like a Shark Tank on a local level.
It's kind of like, so some of the inspiration is from Shark Tank. There's another show that I watched, and I think they only did one season of it. I'm really disappointed they only did one season of it, but it was called Cleveland Hustles, I think. Hustle or Hustles, one of the two. But it was LeBron James had kind of masterminded the whole thing, but there were businesses there in the Cleveland area. They pitched to this group of investors. Each one of the investors selected one of them, and the show kind of followed them through of like how they were helping them grow or launch their company, that kind of thing. I was like, that's something that would be really cool to do.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I was like, just grow your local economy, that kind of thing. Help get, especially with women, because a lot of times too, it's very challenging for women to get to secure capital for their companies and that kind of thing. So definitely wanting to help that be a part of that. And again, bringing about that awareness of like, hey, here's a group of women who want to start a business and need the capital to do it. And so getting them in front of those investors to do it. So
well, I love that you're promoting that for these young girls and getting them early.
Yes.
They have a lot of great ideas and they have the energy and enthusiasm.
Exactly.
They don't necessarily have the know-how. So you're marrying that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so awesome.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations on launching that, and I know it'll be a great success.
There is a difference between having the ideas and executing the ideas. So we're in the process of executing the ideas. And so far, the summer business camp for girls, we've done our first 2 years and they've been very successful. So just looking on expanding, and then we'll have the girls in politics also. So that's where we'll have that camp where the girls are learning about local, city and state politics, how to get involved with it, that kind of thing. So,
what inspired you to incorporate that political aspect into your business?
here we go. This leads me back to the BHAG, which is to change the landscape of leadership. And part of that is even bigger is being a part of rewriting how society views women and our roles within society. And so in breaking that down, I'm like, okay, because again, then how am I part of the solution for that problem? 2 places that have tremendous impact, whether we realize it or not, on how we view other people is through essentially like corporate world, through media and all of that, be it movies, be it companies and the products that they make and how they're marketing them. Yes. All of that. Well, when you take a look at the upper leadership of that, there's very few women within those top leadership roles, very few women of color in those leadership roles. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the political world where they're making the laws that are dictating how we treat other people. And again, ridiculously small number of women in those positions, even smaller mm-hmm. numbers of women of color. And so for me, that's where it's like, well, that needs to change. And as we get women in those positions, things will start to shift. And so that's why, and like, that's why I want to work with women, but also with teen girls. And that's where a lot of the struggle came from. It's like, where do I get this all aligned? So that way it makes sense to myself and it makes sense to other people as well. And so that's why we've got the areas of like the talk show and things, uncovering those unconscious biases that we have, and being able to see where it is in the world. So that way women are changing the conversations and how we're speaking to one another, to ourselves, to our daughters, and then working with the girls as well. That's why it's really important for me to work with women as well as girls. Because if I just work with the girls and then they go home to moms who have
different culture, maybe.
Exactly.
A different mindset.
Exactly. And so having those conversations on both sides help them support one another. That, and it's like when I go out and I do talks with women, I also tell them, I'm like, you know, the reason why I speak to women is somewhat selfish. Like, because, you know, if I would talk to a group of 10 women, well, you go out and you go and talk to then 10 women who then each have daughters and nieces and neighbors who are little girls. I'm like, it just is expanding my reach by doing that.
The ripple effect is huge.
Exactly. And so
I love that you're spreading that message. And I'm curious as to what was your foundation like? What was your upbringing like? Because you have created this empowerment movement, and it's going to really change the lives of so many people, touch the lives of so many people. What was your background like in childhood that was bringing you all of these skills and this awareness, you know, that you wanted to affect change?
Having two very strong women, actually three very strong women in my life. My mom, my grandmother, who my grandparents lived across the street from me. And then, I mean, she's almost like family. She was my friend's mom. And so they were just, you know, the 2 houses down, just very strong women in my life. But watching my mom, so my mom and dad divorced when I was in 2nd grade. So this was back in the 70s. So yes, I've just dated myself. But back in the 70s, I remember the struggle that my mom had. Like, I remember my mom sitting on the phone, talking with someone. I'm assuming it was either a credit card company or a bank. It was right after the divorce. Her trying to get a credit card and to get a bank account, because they didn't want to give it to her because she'd been, you know, the stay-at-home mom, because that's what my dad wanted her to be. Mm-hmm. And so he wasn't really hip on her going to school or anything like that. My dad was in the Air Force, so we moved a lot. So that also contributed to it being a challenge for my mom to continue education. Sure. But then being frustrated that my mom had a hard time getting the funding to be able to pay for her to go to school so she could, you know, support her daughter and herself as well. So just that as well. And then just a lot of the conversations. I remember being in high school, my mom talking about what it was like when she was in high school, how she had wanted to pursue different careers and was told, you can't do that. Girls aren't good at math.
Oh, gosh.
You know, and then being outraged, sitting in high school, watching my high school counselor doing this to girlfriends of mine, the same exact kinds of conversations. So, you know, there's 20 years difference, and like there doesn't seem to be a change in how women are being viewed, and then just going through, you know, I'm just being outraged at the time and then just kind of trucking on with life, you know, because, you know, what
was she ultimately able to get that credit card or get education?
Yes.
Or what ended up happening? You can't leave us hanging. What
I'm sorry.
happened to her?
I mean, she eventually did, but it was through the help of her parents. I mean, she had to have her mom and dad help, you know? I mean, that's the very frustrating thing, is that it's kind of like, I could be mistaken, but I mean, I'm sure my grandfather probably had to step in and help, be like with a co-signer at the beginning or something, because, but again, it's like, not only was she divorced, it's like her ex-husband wasn't even in the country So it's kind of like, yeah, so it's like, I mean, what, it's very, very challenging. I know that, so things like that, I think I reflect now and see that, and it's just over the years, it's just like, that's why I sit here and say, I'm like, it's 2018, and things should just not be like this anymore.
Mm-hmm. It was very impactful, I can tell, because, it instilled these values and this passion in you that you're doing something very powerful with that today. So I honor you for that. My mom also was one of the first women in the workforce in the 70s. She was one of the first women hired by Xerox.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, as a sales rep. Yeah, she was a sales rep. And it really was, she was telling me that she had to take this test, to get hired. And she knew she bombed. She bombed the math. She really was terrible in math. And she just turned her test in, and the secretary's like, you got the job. My mom's like, I'm pretty sure I bombed that test, but mom was really good looking. And I think they just wanted to hire these women based on their looks. She actually ended up being a rock star salesperson, which was a complete surprise because they didn't think women had brains, Of
course not.
Like, now, did you understand that? She'd go to these meetings and they'd be like, did you understand what we were talking about? And she was just like, really?
Now, why don't you explain it to me?
Yeah. So definitely challenging times.
Oh, for sure.
Our moms, but they sure paved the way for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So but again, I find you'll listen to women though, and you'll hear stories of them now. It's kind of like, that is the same kind of story you could have heard back in the 70s.
That's a tragedy that we're still having the same conversations now. That
I mean, the same. Sometimes they're different industries, just because of the fact, like within gaming industry and that kind of thing. I mean, that's one that kind of pops up. I've had had conversations with women who are in the construction industry. I have a friend of mine who's an electrician, a friend of mine who's a plumber, and so it's just kind of like the way that they are treated within certain situations, because those, again, are male-dominated industries.
Well, I feel like they have to work 2 or 3 times as hard.
Absolutely.
To prove themselves in their industry, because they're almost swimming upstream.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
very difficult.
Yes. I haven't met her yet. I'm dying to meet her. A Facebook friend. She is a woman. She is an auto mechanic. She owns her own car repair place, and she will post on there. She's even done like Facebook video of a guy who was treating her like she didn't know what she was doing within her own company. And it's just kind of like that. Just to me, it's so maddening. It's just so frustrating. It's like, yes, women actually do have brains.
Yes, we do. I think times are changing. I feel very optimistic about our future.
There are days when I feel optimistic, and there are other days where, again, it feels like it's a challenge, that kind of thing. But it's just keep on going. Just like,
you gotta keep getting up. You gotta keep.
Exactly. But for me, it's times where, and it's a shift in perspective. I mean, you can look at it one way. Like, I could have looked at that advisor telling me, I just don't see the need for your company. And I could have looked at it from the perspective of like taking it at face value. Like, you're right. What should I do instead? But instead, just shifting the perspective to, this is just really showing me how right I am.
Exactly. Right? Actually, it just lit a fire under you instead of snuffing it out, right?
Exactly. And so
let me show you.
I know. So I think with a lot of people that if you just shift your perspective a little bit, look at it from a little bit different angle, that's when, like, because your whole thing is like being in alignment. It was just, for me, it was just stepping back, shifting perspective. And it's like, well, that's how everything fits in place. I mean, it's just like when you look at a puzzle, everything, you shift your perspective, and then that lets you see things in a different light.
I also noticed, and a core of my business practice is when you can shift someone's perspective even 2 degrees, the trajectory of their life is going to change radically. It might be very slight perspective from a degree standpoint, but if you follow that trajectory, you're going to end up in a far different place.
Absolutely.
Having the ability to change your perspective and to keep getting up, following your path and your passion, the universe is going to deliver to you the opportunities and the people because you're aligned with your mission. You know, you're so firmly aligned in your vision and your mission, and doors are just going to continue to keep opening for you. I can see it, you know.
I appreciate it. It took the willingness, though. And I think that's one of the things for a lot of people. It's just it's having the willingness to be open to at least look at it from a different perspective. Doesn't mean you have to believe it. Doesn't mean that you have to follow it. Just having that willingness to shift a little bit and look at it, I think is the biggest hurdle, I think, for a lot of people, you know?
Well, I know a powerful thing for you was shifting your perspective around becoming a nonprofit organization. So let's just talk briefly about that, because I would love for people who this resonates with to donate to your nonprofit organization so you can continue this awesome work. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay.
What came about.
Yeah, so I had the idea that and Nerdy Girl, so the Nerdy Girl Supplies, that's the way that it started, and it still is that way. Is that it was it's just the shifting of things. Like I said, it's all very, anybody who thinks that, like, you know, the rise for somebody's success is always like this nice little linear path or whatever, it's nice and straight. It's never that way. It's all just muddy. But it was, you know, I wanted to be a social enterprise. But as things were, again, there were a lot of people who just didn't really understand that kind of thing. As I was trying to explain to people what it was that I was wanting to accomplish, them seeing it as a for-profit social enterprise kind of thing, they just really, it wasn't resonating with people as much as it was resonating with me. Like, it made sense for me. And then just having a mentor and a few other people talking to me of like, this is just, and again, my willingness to stop, to listen, to shift perspective a little bit. That, because my mentor kept telling me, she's like, this just sounds an awful lot like a nonprofit. This is going to open up a lot more doors for you if you shift and do the nonprofit route. And it took me, my goodness, a year and a half before I finally went, all right, okay. I just got tired of, I mean, I think the reason why I got open to just shifting was that I just got tired of beating my head against the wall. It's what it felt like. I'm like, nobody ever seems to get it. Why doesn't anybody get it the way that I get it, you know? Yeah. And how to get involved, because I would have a lot of people like, yes, that's great. We need that. Great. So would you be willing to help out? And they're like, well, I don't really understand how I'm supposed to help out. And so just hitting that over and over and over again, I finally went, okay, just, you know, listen, think about it. And as soon as I did, I mean, I have to say, like, as soon as I did, first, like, one of the things that, like, I'd been told is, it's so difficult to become a nonprofit. Oh my goodness, it's so hard and everything like that. That's one of the things that I listened to, and was one of the excuses that I used for not, well, it's just going to be too hard. It's just so hard. And then when I actually sat down, when I finally was like, okay, let's just see what it takes to be a nonprofit, it was crazy easy. So people are like, you know, people are like, oh, that's congratulations. Wow, that's so hard to become a nonprofit. I'm like, wow, it just, at least for me, I mean, maybe it is for other companies and maybe it should have been, but I know, like, for me, it was an easy process. I don't know if they've changed the rules in the meantime or whatever, but
Now, if somebody wants to make a donation to you, where can they donate to? Or is there, I don't know, is there a website they can go to and make a donation? Or
Thank you for like rounding me around, because I'm like, I'll
just bringing you back around. I want people to be able to contribute to this awesome cause if they feel, called to.
Yeah, nerdygirlsuccess.com. There's a donate button right at the top.
Awesome. I'll put that website right below for people to find you.
Thank you. Yeah, and there's a couple of ways too. I was gonna say you can either do like a one-time donation, or we're starting a quarterly magazine, and it is all volunteer contributions from women as well as teen girls. All of the photographs, all the articles, all of the illustrations will be from those contributors, and you can actually subscribe to the magazine. You just find that on the website as well, but there's going to be a quarterly magazine. 100% of the subscription money goes to funding the programs that I do with the girls. So
you are one busy woman.
I just have a lot of help. That's what I have.
Thank you so much for making time to come share your story.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and letting me ramble. I appreciate that.
Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice you'd like to share with our audience? I know you've probably learned so much on this life journey of yours. And I always ask for one little nugget that might help somebody out there.
The thing for me is just thinking about what is that, if you're trying to figure out what it is that you're supposed to be doing, what's that one thing that you can't stop thinking about, that you keep circling around back to, that kind of thing. That then is most likely the thing that you're supposed to be doing, and believing enough in yourself to follow that. Because once you do, you really will. It's not going to be easy, but finding that thing that you can't stop thinking about and following it and pursuing it really is worth it.
And you can do it.
Mm-hmm. You really can.
You can.
You won't believe in yourself, I will believe in you for you.
Yes. That's what we're here for, right, Christina? To tell you that it's possible. Anything is possible if you believe in yourself.
Absolutely. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
I always say the same. Well, congratulations on all your success and all the directions you're moving in. And I just really want to thank you for all the work you're doing to empower women and especially touch the younger demographic, this new generation coming in. I know they're going to impact change and, be amazing influencers in the world. So thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. You guys have a great time.
Thank you. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you will subscribe, like, and share. If this topic resonated with you, please check out Christina's website, make a donation to her nonprofit. I know she'd welcome any assistance. Be kind to yourself.